I'm Paula Harris-White.
And I'm John Lewis.
And we are from the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Planning Committee. We're going to be your hosts for today's celebration. And we're honored to represent the many different King County employees and departments that make up our glorious King County. On behalf of the King County, we'd like to welcome all of you to the 28th, and yes, it is the 28th Annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Celebration. The musicians you heard performing as you entered the theater were Ben Hunter and Joe Siemens, and they are a talented folk duo also known as Ben and Joe. They have developed a very fresh and new way of fiddle and banjo sound that you're going to enjoy throughout the program. So if we could have a hand again for Ben and Joe.
Thank you all for coming today. Let us start this event as a community. Would you please stand, and we invite those who know the words and feel like it to join with our talented committee member, Michael Hepburn, in singing Lift Every Voice and Sing. You can find the words on the insert in your program. Again, please join in.
Well, good morning, everybody. How you doing? First thing, I want you to clap for Ben and Joe like you really want them to come back out here. There's nothing like some good Americana, some good roots music that defines us, right? As so does the Negro spiritual. So please, let's all sing. If you know the words, lift every voice and sing. Just follow me. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Well, join me on that last part two more times. Let us march on till victory is won. One last time with conviction. Let us march on, that's the way, till victory is won. Thank you. Vote because it matters. Vote because you care. Turn to your neighbor and say, I vote because I matter. I vote because we care. All right, let's celebrate 50 years of voting rights.
So that was Michael Hepburn, who's a member of our planning committee. He's also an attorney with the prosecuting attorney's office in King County. So I'd like to take a moment to recognize the elected officials who have joined us by asking them to stand as I read their names. So we have backstage, actually, our county executive, Dow Constantine, and our county council chair, Larry Phillips, will be speaking later today. We also have with us council members Kathy Lambert, Rod Dembowski, and Jane Haig. We have the assessor, Lloyd Hara. We have the prosecuting attorney, Dan Satterberg. And if we have anyone that I've mentioned, please forgive me. But if we could just have a round of applause for our elected officials who have taken time to join us today. Oh, I'm sorry, and I missed the sheriff. Sheriff John Urquhart. I hear some sound from the sheriff's section as well. They're kind of a noisy bunch, but they're here in full force. Thank you for attending. So one of our biggest supporters Council Member Lara Gossett is not able to be with us today. He sends his regrets. He is missing the celebration because the University of Washington's Warren G. Magnuson Health Sciences Center and the UW Medical Center are recognizing his long-standing and continuing commitment to community service and volunteerism by presenting him with the center's 2015 Distinguished Service Award. So in absentia, we know Larry is not with us today in body, but we always know he's here with us in spirit. So our theme for this year is Dr. King's reminder to us: so long as I do not firmly and irrevocably possess the right to vote, I do not possess myself. I cannot make up my mind. It is made up for me. I cannot live as a democratic citizen, observing the laws I have helped to enact. I can only submit to the edict of others. Those are words Dr. King said, and those are our theme for this year. Joining us now to share remarks on the celebration is our own King County Executive, Dow Constantine.
Thank you, Paula, and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we honor the life, the work, and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Today we reflect on the inequality in our not-so-distant past, and we take joy in the progress we've made and the challenges that still await us. Last year, at this time, we marked the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. This year marks the golden anniversary of another piece of landmark legislation, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Together, these two bills were the most successful uses of federal law to enforce the promise in our Constitution of equal treatment for all people. Until then, laws in many states were designed to deny equality and to protect segregation. The Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act used federal preemption by making equal rights the law of the land. It took aim at local laws and rules designed to deny people the right to vote. It took aim at the pervasive problem of discrimination in public accommodations. And it provided a legal footing for the subjects of discrimination to petition for the redress of grievances in federal court. Now, it took almost a full century for these two laws to finally implement rights that were guaranteed by the 14th and 15th Amendments to the Constitution. And just last year, the United States Supreme Court, the supposed guardian of the rights of all, gutted portions of the Voting Rights Act on the demonstrably false pretext that barriers to voting no longer exist in our society. Indeed, organized and well-funded interests are seeking to erect new barriers to voting with every election. So, the struggle is long and the struggle is ongoing. As the chief executive of the county, which takes its name from Dr. King, I've made equity and social justice a central tenet of the work we do. My core commitment is to create the conditions where every person can have a fair shot, and I don't mean a fair shot like we all have a fair shot at winning the lottery jackpot. A fair shot, irrespective of race or wealth or neighborhood. The opportunity to work and strive and create, and in doing so, succeed. We, those of us in this room, study the inequities within our communities as a first step toward eliminating them. So, how is it here that here in King County, African American households have incomes that are on average half that of whites? Or how is it that African Americans here are twice as likely to be unemployed as whites? and to have life expectancies that are on average 5 years shorter than whites. In King County, we've enshrined our vision for an equitable government in law through adoption of a fair and just principle in our strategic plan. Simply put, we, all 13,000 plus of us who work for this government, have as a part of our job to consciously and daily integrate the values of equity and social justice into our every action in service of the people. Every decision, every policy, every practice, whether one drives a bus, administers an election, protects the public health, or enforces the law. In just the last few months, events in Ferguson, in New York, and Cleveland have generated outrage and renewed a demand for equality across the nation and here in the county named for Dr. King. We are confronted with the nature of what still exists in America, the persistent, corrosive effects of hypocrisy, of centuries-long mismatch between who we are and who we know we need to be. In answer to the challenge that Black Lives Matter, to the cry of I can't breathe, Dr. King reminds us of his dream of an America that can rise up and live out its founding ideals. The ideals announced by the founders were lofty, and the Constitution they wrote was brilliant, but also deeply flawed and a political document. They could not escape the times in which they lived, and we shouldn't fool ourselves that we are all seeing and all knowing either. We can do better, though, with a quarter century or quarter millennium of human history upon which to build. We need to live up to this nation's ideals. And more than that, we need to continually renew and expand upon those ideals. It is up to every generation to drive this nation, the shared experiment in which you in particular are participating as employees of this very significant government, to drive us closer to what we truly can be. As an employee of Martin Luther King County, no matter what it says in your job description, pledge to participate in the collective effort to create the long-term systemic changes this nation needs to be what it truly can. Let us create true justice. Let us create genuine opportunity. Let us create an environment in which each person, every man and woman, every child growing up here, has the opportunity to fulfill his or her innate potential, to be a place where the human spirit can genuinely flourish. The struggle is long. The struggle is ongoing. The struggle is happening right now, right here, today. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for organizing, and thank you for attending today's event.
I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I'm on my way to glory. I shall not be moved. On my way to glory. I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. Oh, brother, shall not be moved. Oh, brother, I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. Oh, sisters, I shall not be moved. Oh, sisters, I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. Oh, turn back, I shall not be moved. Oh, turn back, I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved.
Please join me in welcoming the chair of the King County Council, Larry Phillips.
John, thank you. And let me add my note of appreciation for all of you joining us today as we gather to celebrate not only the remarkable accomplishments of Dr. King, but also, just as importantly, the men and the women of all ages, races, and religions who joined him in ensuring that African Americans, and really all Americans, had full and free access to the ballot box throughout the country. It's stunning, really, to think back and to contemplate the extraordinary lengths that people and governments at all levels, local, state, and federal, went through to prevent the most basic expression of being part of a democratic society, the ability of our citizens to vote. And it's sad, and I think actually intolerable, to realize that within 2 generations, this landmark voting rights achievement, now there are efforts to turn back those rights for a number of Americans, returning them to essentially to second-class status by erecting barriers that prevent them from voting. The sentiments that were expressed by Dr. King, that they are the theme of this year's celebration, on not being able to live as a democratic citizen if denied the right to vote, ring true as now today as they did 50 years ago. We are fortunate today. Maria Gitin was one of the thousands of people who heard the call from Dr. King to help bring voting rights to those who had been denied it a century after the Emancipation Proclamation. She was a college freshman when she decided to join students from across the country in registering black voters. Gitin found herself in Wilcox County, Alabama, facing the dangers that were inherent in helping to destroy Jim Crow system that had dominated the South for decades and generations. Those dangers included encounters with the Ku Klux Klan, face-to-face hatred from local residents, and of course, the threat of being arrested. Decades later, Gitin returned to Wilcox County to talk with those people who had joined her in the voter registration effort. Those visits and discussions became a book entitled "This Bright Light of Ours, Stories from the Voting Rights Fight," where Maria talks about the impact of that effort from the perspective of both longtime residents and people like her who were considered outside agitators. So it is my pleasure at this time to introduce to you Maria Gitin, the keynote speaker for our 28th annual King County Dr. Martin Luther King celebration. Please join me at this time in welcoming her to the stage.
Thank you so much to all of the King County Martin Luther King Celebration Committee, to Councilmember Phillips, Council Chair Phillips for introducing me, to all the employees and families here today, to all the community members. I'm very pleased to be here with you in beautiful Martin Luther King County, which I understand owes its name to some courageous leaders, including Councilmember Gossett, for your full name being Martin Luther King Jr. County. I am in awe that an area this size with, according to the census, approximately 7.9% African Americans residents, hosts not only two of the largest MLK celebrations in the Northwest, is home to the beautiful Northwest African American Museum, and has a legacy of peaceful, nonviolent demonstrations for justice, including the 1960s school desegregation campaign led by Martin Luther King's friend, the Reverend Dr. Samuel Berry McKinney. In my brief remarks today, I want to touch on two themes. One, why Martin Luther King Jr. believed the voting rights fight was worth risking our lives for. And two, what guidance his teachings give us to fight injustice today. While we may be fond of MLK's speeches about brotherhood and integration, it is his insistent call to nonviolent action against injustice that for me resonates across the decades. I first heard that call when I was a 19-year-old student at San Francisco State College, a freshman. I saw Dr. King on television calling students to action, inviting us to come south and join in the voter registration fight after the violent attack on voting rights demonstrators on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. Dozens of young people who would very soon become my close personal friends were beaten, tear-gassed, and chased off the bridge that day. Many were severely injured. The year was 1965. What I saw on the grainy black and white television became known as Bloody Sunday, commemorated each year on the first full weekend of March at the Selma Jubilee. My dear friend and Selma SNCC leader, Charles Bonner, described the scene as he and the other young demonstrators walked toward the armed city and county officers on the bridge that day. We were just teenagers marching towards a sea of blue police armed with tear guns, gas, billy clubs. Those on horseback had long leather whips, but we were at peace with our fear, our courage, our hope. And the song that we were singing, it goes, "A change is gonna come." Mary Alice Robinson was a 16-year-old high school student from an active but very rural community in Wilcox County, Alabama. She vividly recalls Bloody Sunday. My sister and I, lots of us from Coy, walked together. When they turned the dogs on us, tear-gassed us, and chased us downhill, I rolled into some bushes. I got briars in my hand, and I left them there for a long time as a reminder of what they did to us. Before I was assigned to spend the summer working with these courageous grassroots freedom fighters in Wilcox County, I attended an intensive orientation, a civil rights boot camp. It was in Atlanta, headed by Reverend Hosea L. Williams. He, Martin Luther King Jr., Dorothy Cotton, Septima Clark, and other now legendary civil rights leaders taught us 400 white and 200 black students as much history, philosophy, and voting rights as they could cram into a 5.5 days of 14-hour-a-day training. Later that year, in a speech at Hunter College, Dr. King recapped some of what he told us, and bear in mind that at that time, Negro was the term of respect and the term that Dr. King used and asked us to use. Quoting from King, The powerful unity of Negro with Negro and white with Negro is stronger than the most powerful and entrenched racism. I want to repeat that. The powerful unity of Negro with Negro and white with Negro is stronger than the most powerful and entrenched racism. King scholar Lewis V. Baldwin wrote that King's further comments emphasize that King concluded that racial injustice will never end as long as whites throughout the world minimize or ignore the problem. Quoting excerpts from King again, "The cup of endurance has run over, and there is deep determination on the part of people of color to be freed from the shackles that they faced in the past. Now, if the white world does not recognize this and adjust to what has to be, then we will end up with a kind of a race war." Dr. King penned this warning in 1965, nearly 50 years ago. Today, many activists, commentators, even scholars predict that as a result of our failure to eliminate institutional racism, and due to a series of recent murders of unarmed black men, and the reaction of the white establishment to the ongoing demonstrations, that we are in a period that could be both as productive and tumultuous as the Southern Civil Rights Movement of the 1960s. This civil unrest and indignation arise at the same time when a broad segment of the public is cynical about the electoral process and discouraged about their own potential for economic advancement. We see decreased voter registration and voter turnout numbers. What does it mean for us as a county, a state, a country, if we have large numbers of people who do not believe that they are heard, that they are represented and franchised? Martin Luther King Jr. is widely recognized as one of the world's greatest leaders, but he was a leader who always prodded us to do better, be better, to never rest on a single achievement, a voting site opened, a school integrated, even an unjust law changed. He encouraged us to push on and push on, always pushing towards justice. One of his more familiar quotes is a favorite of mine: "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. We are tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." King's familiar words offer both a challenge and encouragement, but sometimes we turn away from his less comforting quotes, such as his insistence that we as a society, a whole society, cannot rest until we have eliminated racism from every aspect of our social and cultural institutions. Racism is, as he said, that hound of hell which dogs the tracks of our civilization. Too many civil rights martyrs, most of them black, most of them unknown to this day, were injured and some died fighting for the right of African Americans to vote. This is the theme today, the importance of the right to vote for all of us. I want to emphasize that Dr. King, as Dr. King did, that the right to vote was not the end of the struggle, but it was a large step towards full citizenship, a right that enables all Americans, most especially those who had been denied voting rights based on race, to participate fully in the affairs of their community, this country, and our world. Mrs. Rosetta Anderson, the mother of 16 children, including Mary Alice Robinson, who I quoted earlier, still found time to work in the Wilcox County, Alabama voting rights movement. Her home in rural Coy was a rest stop, a place where we dropped off and picked up our voter lists, a place where people waited for rides to go into the courthouse to attempt to register. She shared some of her memories with me. Mrs. Angion recalled, "I'll never forget sitting up watching TV, seeing Dr. King in other places marching, and whatever they tried to do, they accomplished because he came. I remember saying, 'Lord, I wish he would come to Wilcox County.' And then he did. I will never forget him coming here. We were tear gassed and beaten with sticks just because we wanted to vote. I remember marching into Camden, going to meetings, and then the great day when we stood in the rain to get registered, the day Dr. King was there. He stood on the jailhouse steps and spoke to us. Earlier, I found out that the only way you become a real citizen is to vote. And after that, I did everything I could to improve the lives in my community. Martin Luther King shared Mrs. Angion's conviction that you are not a full citizen if you cannot, do not vote, in the quote that has become our theme for today. So long as I do not firmly and irrevocably possess the right to vote, I do not possess myself. I cannot make up my mind. It is made up for me. Dr. King is warning us that not voting is the equivalent of enslavement. The lack of ability to vote means we do not possess ourselves and that others make up our minds for us. And as Mrs. Angion so movingly reminds us, the only way you become a real citizen is to vote. If we care about our communities, and I know that we do, we must ensure that the systems within our society are fair and equitable. It is up to those of us who identify as part of the system to be part of the solution, to ensure that our governmental and cultural institutions are barrier-free, welcoming, and opening to all. It is our job to make it easy and inviting to vote, to develop policies and processes fair enough that people care about who is on my city and my county council, on my school board and our water board. We collectively have an obligation to create government that the people hear, see, and believe represents their interests. Then we won't have to work so hard to get out the vote. If we're already inside the establishment, let's not ask what's wrong with those people who don't vote, but rather, as King invited us, look inward. What are the ongoing barriers to participation, to belonging? How can we make the electoral process, voting, and participation in civil society look attractive to young people, to others? How can we ensure that their voices are heard? Actually, today we're going to hear a few of their voices, I believe. Today is about their future, but it is also about our present. American democracy looks attractive to millions living in other countries, so attractive that they are literally sometimes dying to immigrate here. But how attractive are we to our own economically segregated communities, to our children in underfunded public schools and colleges? King wrote in 1968, shortly before his assassination, "It is very important for every white person to search his own soul and to remove all vestiges of racism and white supremacy. It is not enough to invite a Negro to dinner, but it means establishing within this society all the patterns of justice necessary to make colored people free." As one of the smallest temporary workers in the great voting rights struggle of 1965, I was privileged to listen to Dr. King and to work side by side with courageous community leaders and ordinary kids who believed in his belief in us. In Atlanta, he told us, "Youth are where history is being made." He inspired us to be braver and stronger than we really were. He inspired us white kids to work through the pain of accepting our white privilege and the challenge of devoting ourselves not to get invited to dinner, but to be the change we wanted to bring about. For most of us, this was a lesson we never forgot, and we never forget to vote. Thank you for your part in the ongoing nonviolent struggle for justice. And in conclusion, I'm going to ask a series of please stand up if you're able, or wave your hand vigorously, or some other body part in response to if you identify with one of these groups. And if you are standing, remain standing toward the end, and we will be applauding each group. I first want to ask all the other veterans of the Southern Civil Rights Movement who are here today to please rise or wave a body part and be recognized with a round of applause, and please remain standing. Thank you. Now will all the relatives, friends, children, descendants of all the church and temple folks who supported, endorsed, raised funds for the Southern Civil Rights Movement please rise and stay standing? Thank you. And finally, will all who pledge to work to end racial injustice and to ensure the rights of all please stand? Congratulations to all on our courage to continue on the road to justice. Thank you.
So now we move to the Essay Contest Awards, which are given by the Civil Rights Commission. And Justin Walsh, who's the commission chair, will be joining us now to provide students with those awards.
Good afternoon. This is the 16th year that the King County Civil Rights Commission has sponsored this essay contest open to all 8th grade students of the county and focuses on the work of Dr. King. The contest provided an opportunity for these students to deepen their knowledge of Dr. King's life and work and to reflect on the meaning of his legacy in their own time as they addressed this year's theme. So long as I do not firmly and irrevocably possess the right to vote, I do not possess myself. I cannot make up my mind. It is made up for me. I cannot live as a democratic citizen observing the laws I have helped to enact. I can only submit to the edict of others. As we have seen even in Washington and the city of Yakima voting rights case, this right is still not possessed by all. The Commission is extremely proud to honor these students for their awareness of Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement. Their essays capture and eloquently express the meaning of this year's theme and showcase the ongoing work that each of us can do to continue Dr. King's legacy. Each student's essay demonstrated how Dr. King's values continue in our young people. On behalf of the Civil Rights Commission, it gives me great pleasure to announce the award trophies and prizes for the top 3 essays in this year's contest. Our 3rd place winner, Emma Wineland. Our 2nd place winner, Audrey Whitmer. And the winner of this year's Martin Luther King Jr. Essay Contest, Colin Cameron, all 3 students from Open Window School in Bellevue. The members of the Civil Rights Commission are proud of the work of these students, whose essays you can read on the Commission website. Would you please join us in congratulating Colin, Audrey, and Emma, the winners of this year's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Essay Contest.
Sorry about that. We thought that there was more speaking. But it just means that I'm going to do some speaking until my partner gets out of here. Gets on this stage. But this is good because we need more laughter, right? So I'm going to do my quick 30-second stand-up spiel. Which I don't really have much one of. one thing I do want to say, though, I think it's really fitting that we're in this theater. You know, there's so much history to this city, and so much history, you know, all around us at any given time. And I think it's really important that we kind of that we take that time to recognize that history every once in a while. I mean, obviously we're doing that now and remembering a historical figure, but on our day-to-day basis, like, you know, how often do we think about, you know, here he is, the sweat or the time that was put into building this city. You know, we think about all these things that are going on in the world, and we want these quick reactions. I know that's what I wanted. You know, when we're talking about these killings or these stranglings or these these horrible acts that are happening in our country, and we want immediate results. But these things take time and thought and care, and you know, we're in this. Look at this. I mean, who does this anymore? Right? Every building in Seattle that's new is straight and non-curved, and you know, has absolutely no ornate design to it at all. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is we need more ornate design in our lives.
Elegance.
We need more elegance in our lives. And that is my stand-up, everybody. Less funny, more reflective. Ready?
Dr. King's out there in the street, shaking the hands of the people he meets, speaking in the day, riding in the night, trying to earn humans their voting rights. Had to fight for it,
Be free.
had to die for
You
it.
shall be free.
Use or lose it.
You shall be free.
When there's justice for us all. Plenty folks think that the law won't steal. There's a lot of black lives ground under its heel, shooting and choking till another man's gone, till we got to ask, which side are you on? Out in Harlem,
Shall be free.
down in Georgia,
You shall be free.
King County.
You shall be free.
When there's justice for us all. When you see a Muslim brother with his long clothes on, looking over his shoulder like a convict in the corn, fear his hate, all you please, but it's fear not hate. Keep the chains on thee from the
You
prison
shall be free.
to the chain gang.
You shall be free.
King County,
You shall be free.
when there's justice for us all. Time's still much like they used to be. Black people in prison instead of slavery. If the world's about to end in fire freeze, I'd still walk the earth planting new seeds in the
You
morning,
shall be free.
all day long.
You shall be free.
Holler with me, you shall be free. When there's justice for us all. Oh, I'm tired of watching so helplessly Dr. King's dreams strangled by the bourgeoisie. We will agitate, we will sing and plead till it's not a dream, it's a guarantee. In the
You
morning,
shall be free.
from the rooftops,
You shall be free.
to the courtrooms.
You shall be free.
When there's justice for us all. Had to fight for
You
it,
shall be free.
had to die for
You
it.
shall be free.
Use or lose it,
You shall be free.
When there's justice for us all. Out in Harlem,
You shall be free.
down in Georgia,
You shall be free.
King County,
You shall be free.
when there's justice for us all. In the morning,
You shall be free.
all day long.
You shall be free.
Holler with me,
You shall be free.
when there's justice for us all. From the rooftops
You shall be free.
to the courtroom
You shall be free.
in Missouri,
You shall be free.
when there's justice for us all.
We want to give a special thank to all our speakers, County Executive Dow Constantine, County Council Chair Larry Phillips, civil rights worker and author Maria Gitin, our performers Michael Hepburn and Ben and Joe, and the celebration committee members, and a special congratulations to our Essay Award winners.
We would also like to thank all of you out there in the audience for being with us today. We want to see you back again next year because it will be our 29th celebration, which is kind of amazing, isn't it? 29 years of doing this. So we have one more song, but as you leave today, there are a few calendars that will be available, but we also are going to say if you have not voted, if you're not registered to vote, if you know people who should be voting and are not voting, There's information outside. Our Department of Elections has come in and set up a table outside so you can pick up information to register to vote, because we want to remember what this is about today. Remember our quote, "To vote in 1965 was our right. In 2015, it is our responsibility to vote." So please pick up those materials, share them with your friends and colleagues. And now please join us in singing America the Beautiful with Ben and Joe. You can find the words on your program.
Sing it with us now.
Oh, beautiful for spacious sky, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on me, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea.
You guys got more lyrics? Is that all? Okay. We'll sing
Oh,
one.
beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all, and back to work.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.